What's up, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Storytime with the Anthony KT. Welcome. Yes. So, previously on Storytime with the Anthony KT, and there's quite a bit that has happened since the last episode of Storytime with the Anthony KT. Let's start with episode 18, and with the unexpected is when we were on chapter 10 called "It's Good to See You Again, Zoey," which was Zoe's side of things of everything leading up to her second date with Charles. Chapter 9, from 2 weeks ago, was Charles' point of view of asking Zoe out for a second date and where he would like to take her. And then chapter 10 was what was the other side of that with Zoe. Anyway, so chapter 11. So before I get to chapter 11, then also previously on Storytime with the Anthony KT, I did an unexpected episode of Storytime with the Anthony KT where I shared a story that I wrote about a year and a half ago. I forgot about it because I have written a lot of different stories since then, and a lot has happened since the time I wrote that story. That was called A Life Lived Alone. If you haven't seen that episode yet, go ahead and watch it. It's episode 19 of season 2 for Storytime with the Anthony KT. This is episode 20 of Storytime with the Anthony KT. So if you haven't watched that episode yet, go ahead. Also, if you haven't yet, to keep up to date on all new episodes of Storytime with the Anthony KT, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you know when new episodes are happening on Storytime with the Anthony KT. Episode 19 of Storytime with the Anthony KT, I put out on Friday. Normally, these episodes come out on Monday, which is what today is, or whenever you are watching this episode. But new episodes come out on Monday. That episode I put out on Friday because it was just an unexpected episode. I didn't expect to do it. I was reading it. I was like, I got to share this with all of you. And that's what I did. And that became the episode. I should have probably called it an emergency episode, but nothing emergency about it. Just something I really wanted to share. So that's what episode 19 was. Anyway, let's get back to it. The Unexpected. We're on chapter 11, and chapter 11 is called A Second Date. And a second date is what 9 and 10 were all leading up to this moment, the second date, for Charles and Zoe. And at the end of both chapter 9 and on chapter 10, the end of those two chapters, Charles gets up to the door after getting his courage back up. He was a little nervous about the second date. He goes up, rings the doorbell. She answers it. He says, "It's good to see you again." Get to chapter 10. Get to the end of that chapter. On the other end of that door is Zoe as she opens the door. And after Charles says, "It's good to see you again," she then says, "It's good to see you again too." And that's how chapter 10 ended. And chapter 10 ends for Charles and Zoe about to go on their second date, and that is where I bring in chapter 11, the actual date itself. So with enough said, let's go ahead and read a little bit of chapter 11, A Second Date, from The Unexpected. Also, real quick, if you would like to read The Unexpected, the link is in the bio. Go ahead, you can check it out there. But also, you can also find it if you go to WWE Sense SINCE 83.wordpress.com. You'll be able to find it there too. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's get into this. Chapter 11, A Second Date. Zoe closes her front door behind her and walks with Charles to his car. Charles opens the passenger side door for Zoe to get in. Zoe gets in the car. Charles closes the passenger side door and Charles walks around to the driver's side door, opens it, and gets in. Charles starts his car, and while he does, he asks Zoe how she's doing. Zoe says she's doing fine, and then Zoe asks Charles the same question. He says he's doing well. He said he's also doing well. Charles puts the radio on as music plays low, and in the background, as Zoey and Charles make small talk on the way to the beach, as they are both saving all the big talk for when they get to the beach. 45 minutes in the car, and a mix of music playing from a playlist on Charles's phone connected to his Apple CarPlay, and Charles and Zoey making the smallest of talk, mostly because both of them are nervous. When they arrived at the beach, the parking lot was full, and Charles was worried he might not find a spot to park. But luckily, there was a car leaving, and he was able to get that spot. Charles parked his car. Charles and Zoey got out. Zoey loved the feeling of the ocean breeze and the sound of the ocean from the parking lot. Charles grabbed the bag with everything needed for the picnic, and Zoey helped carry the drinks that were in the back seat of Charles' car. Zoey followed Charles to his favorite spot on the beach. It was a bit of a walk, but it was worth the walk once Zoey saw the spot. The spot on the beach was surrounded by a few rocks, plenty of shade. Almost felt like they were on a very small island. Zoey could see why it was Charles's favorite spot. Zoey sat down in the sand as Charles set everything up. Charles put the blanket down, took the food out, set everything up to look as nice and comfortable as he could. When Charles was done, both he and Zoey sat down. Then Charles said what a lot of people might not say. "I need to be honest with you about something," Charles said. "Please do." Zoey said, wondering what Charles was going to say. I'm nervous as F. I'm not going to actually say the curse word. It's been a long time since I've dated anyone. I've had this wall up and my heart closed off for a long time that all this scares me. Like I don't deserve anything good in my life. But also, all this feels very foreign to me, Charles said, sounding nervous with every word that came out of his mouth. Trust me, Charles, I get it. I woke up this morning feeling all of what you just told me. I'm also nervous as F, and I'm also scared. It's been a long time for me too. But what makes this easy is that it's with someone that understands how I've been feeling for the last few years and how I'm feeling now. I thought about this the whole car ride here, and it might be a little soon to say this, but you make me smile. I enjoy our talks. It feels good to talk with someone that understands what I'm going through. I like you, Charles, Zoey said with a smile on her face. I like you too, Zoey, Charles said with a smile on his face. On his face. So, we like each other, and we'll always keep being honest with each other, Zoey said as she moves closer to Charles. And that, my friends, is where I'm going to leave it for the unexpected. That was a little something of chapter 11 called The Second Date of the Unexpected. As you can see, things are looking very good for their second date. If you'd like to know how their second date went in chapter 11, as well as just how the whole story goes from start to finish, the link is in the bio for The Unexpected, as well as you can also go to the other way you can get there. The other way you can get there is www.sense83.wordpress.com. That is another way for you to get there. Sense as in SINCE 83.wordpress.com is another way you can find it. That will take you right to my WordPress, my AKT Publishing WordPress page. You'll be able to find The Unexpected there, as well as many other stories, and my Let's Talk Wrestling blog there as well. But this will do it for episode 20 of Storytime with the Anthony KT. Thanks for sticking around. If you haven't yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and hit the like button. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. And I will see you back here next week for episode 21 of Story Time with the Anthony KT. Until next time, in the meantime, in between time, peace, y'all.